Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jason Stubers. I am the Associate Director of Alumni Engagement at the Graziadio Business School. And thank you for attending our session 3 of our career track, Navigating Your Career in a Virtual World, Creating and Selling Your Brand in a Virtual World. At this time, I would like to introduce our career resources and professional development, who will be speaking for a couple minutes on some career resources that are available to you as alumni and current students. Jessica Chang, she is the Director of Career Advancement for Fully Employed Students. And Stacy Bevins, who is here with us today, she is a career coach with the Fully Employed program. And at this point, I will turn it over to Stacy so that she can give some updates and benefits to you.
Great. Thank you, Jason. Hi, everybody. My name is Stacy Bevins. I'm part of the Career and Professional Development team here at Graziadio, and just wanted to briefly go over with you some of the resources available to you as an alum. So your one-stop shop will be Handshake. We've partnered with Handshake to have them, join Graziadio, so that our alums and current students can apply to the different jobs that we have available, sign up for events, and then also utilize their employer research resources. With our events, you can sign up for all of the events that we have going on for this year and next year. We have career and professional development workshops, employer info sessions, site visits, which we've been doing virtually, but we will hopefully do that on ground once we're able to. Lunch and learns with alums and case studies and competitions. Like I mentioned, you are able to set up an appointment with your career coach as well, like myself, where we can help you with job search strategies. If you're looking to make a career transition or career growth, your resume, cover letter, interview tips, networking tips, salary negotiations, how to handle those tough conversations. And then definitely we'd love for you to take advantage of the other resources that we have, like our career leader assessment, which can definitely help you navigate the career that you might be best fit for. And then our micro internship program, which are short-term paid remote opportunities for you to gain some more exposure in an area that you might be interested in. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to the CPD department. I can type in our email in the chat. But thanks so much for being here, and I'll pass it back over to Jason.
Great, and thank you so much, Stacy, for that great resource presentation for both our alumni and our current students. Next, I would like to introduce our 3 panelists today who will be speaking on different topics of personal brand. Our first speaker will be Denise Robertson. She is an alum of our PKE, our Presidential and Key Executives program, and she's the Chief Purpose Officer at TBWA Shiat Day, and she's also a member of our Graziadio board. We also have Andrew Cohen, who is an Enterprise Account Executive, Educational Vertical at LinkedIn, and he is joining us from New York. And our third panelist is Pat Chiang. He is an EMBA grad from 2016, and he is the co-founder of Storycraft. So at this time, I would like to turn it over to Denise Robertson, who will be our first panelist.
Hi, everyone. So great to be here today. Pepperdine is indeed my second family. I'm an alum. I'm a professor there, and I'm also a board member on 2 different places, Graziadio boards and the Center for Women in Leadership. And for my day job, I'm the Chief Purpose Officer for TBWA Shiat Day. You may know the agency for work like Apple and Gatorade and McDonald's and QuickBooks, just some really great brands from around the world that are iconic in every way. But my job really anchors around purpose. I have the great fortune of being able to teach these legacy brands how to operate by using a business case for purpose and able to enact white space, creative advantage, all of these different elements that purpose actually allows us to drive against. But I will say one of the most powerful forms of purpose is when we have personal purpose and corporate purpose combining. So today we're going to look at how do you build that personal brand purpose. What does it mean? Why is it different? And I will say the old days of purpose being sort of extrinsic to your brand are gone. We don't hear people talking about my brand is humorous or my personal brand is serious. We now hear people talking about their personal brands in terms of their purpose and their values alignment, which is, you'll hear some metrics and some key items coming up, but we now know the generations behind us, it's fifth on the list. You cannot even entice one of these people to work with you unless you've got values alignment. So I'm gonna make a few big postulations, and then I'm gonna lean in and ask everyone, grab a pen or pencil, a piece of paper, an iPad, something to scribble on, because we're gonna do a little work today. So first of all, everything a person does is their brand. You are either losing brand value or gaining brand value. Where you show up, your social profiles, what organizations you're connected to, where you spend your time and energy, what you like or dislike. Anything that you're doing is either creating brand value or losing brand value. So that's a very big change, and that's a technological enabled item. So we're going to look at the notion of purpose really being this North Star. It helps people navigate and thrive in this brave new world. Think about where we are today. We have a virus that has literally affected people and markets around the world. We have social unrest, the likes of which we've never seen. And now our planet is literally on fire. So by using this purpose lens to develop personal purpose, it's going to allow us to help make better decisions, accelerate growth, look at innovation in a different way, and really activate us as people with clear, strong voices in a market. There are a couple keys when we talk about this notion of how do we create personal purpose? What is this? I will tell you, it's deeply and intrinsically connected. So we've got this sort of truth at the top, that which everyone seeks and which serves everyone universally. We've got the notion of self and the notion of life itself and all this connectivity in between. So this is where I want you guys to grab a pen and a piece of paper. Do not put super deep thoughts here. This is reflective inquiry. So what comes to mind, just start jotting down ideas, and you'll start to see sort of a recurring theme that begins to bubble up. So when we look at this notion of, these are questions or guides to reflect on how do we create elements of personal purpose? What does that actually look like? So very quickly, top of mind, just start writing things down. What would you do if you had no fear? This notion of, what would you do? All of a sudden, poof, magic wand, you have no fear. Write down an idea. What's your passion? One or two jots, just what are you passionate about? What really makes you tick? What have you always wanted to do, but have never had the chance or never taken the chance? And I will tell you, this is a big one, because a lot of times what we find is that for some unknown reason, it's all there, but someone doesn't know how to unlock it and just make that jump. What has life prepared you to give? So these are all things that we think about and churn on, but what are your gifts? What do you have to give that makes you special or that you feel you're quite good at? And then finally, when you look at this list very quickly, and I know this is a speed round, so forgive me, what pattern can you see that's starting to emerge? Now we're gonna move on to the values section. And when we look at values, it's a different way, it's a different tilt of this lens. So I'm gonna have you look at, who are your heroes and what qualities do they possess? First thing that comes to mind, just someone that you would consider to be a hero, and why? What's that quality that they represent for you? Then I want you to recall a time in your life when you made a stand on an important issue. What value were you protecting at that time? What was it? What caused you to break that fourth wall, stand up and say, my voice is going to be heard now? What would you be prepared to stand up for? If it's an idea, person, or possession, ask yourself, what values do these begin to represent? And we'll start seeing another picture evolve. When you take a glance across all of this, what you're going to start seeing is that the values define you as a leader. Look at the top 3 or 4 things that are starting to bubble up.
I'm sorry.
Hi to whoever joined us. Okay, so we're looking at this character. What are the values that we're bringing to our next chapter in life? What does that look like? Okay, and then we're going to go on to the next slide. And we're going to look at alignment. Okay, so if we look at this notion of focus, a clear sense of purpose in life, clear goals to guide your life, and work activity. We've got that here. And again, it's all interconnected. Focus as a clear sense of purpose in life and clear goals to guide your life and work activities. Then we've got bravery. And this is kind of the will to do it, the bravery and the will. It's the motivation, it's the enthusiasm, it's the initiative. And this is what's really going to sustain those actions. And then we've got capabilities, and that's the skills and resources to fulfill your purpose and goals. And what we look at, we connect these concentric rings, it's what's right smack in the middle. That's what you're going to actually do. So don't think that if you just feel it deeply inside that you're going to activate it. And if you feel like I'm really great at this, don't assume that it's translating and coming over to where people are experiencing that. So I always try and take a really nice deep dive at asking myself these questions almost on the daily now and just confirming that I have all of these firing and synergy. Because I do this for a living now, it's really important that I'm in alignment. So I think what we can do is look at this, but there's a really critical factor. I get asked on the daily, okay, I've done a lot of work on me, feel very strongly about my purpose or my personal brand. What do I do now? Because I don't know how to get people to listen, or I don't know how to get people engaged or involved. So our last slide I'd like to talk through is sort of the activation of all of those. And it's a really interesting way, because this is really how we start this inside out approach. And I have to say, I'm actually in the way of looking at some of this. So I'm just moving me over to the side. This inside out approach, it's really about starting with you first. You are the epicenter. So developing a leader from inside out. We did this great symposium at Pepperdine over the 4th Industrial Revolution, but it's really starting with the individual. We look at this notion as it starts and stops with us. So we've got to have our stuff together. Then we're going to go into merge into teams, developing team wisdom, trust, and commitment to a purpose beyond individual egos. Very important, take your small group. Once we've gotten our small group and we've kind of created unity and we're creating synergy, we want to move into leading the organizational culture and others. So in this, we're developing collective organizational wisdom, making leaders and organizations more agile, more engaged, more accountable. And ultimately, where we get to this very furthest outreach, it's building community. It's creating the team of all teams. It's interconnected communities and networks that are united by this common personal purpose. And that's where we see something incredibly powerful. So that's me. And I'm going to hand this over now. I'm going to pass the torch to my incredible panelist, Andrew Cohen from LinkedIn.
Thanks, Denise. So before I introduce myself, I'm going to say my biggest fear would be starting a business. So maybe I need to get over that. I like helping people grow in their careers. I'm the strange person that loves public speaking, seriously. And my number one cause right now is hunger and making sure that kids don't go hungry. So maybe there's a business there that you can help me launch. I don't know.
I am game.
Well, hi everybody. Thank you so much for having me again. My name is Owen. I am an account executive on the education vertical here at LinkedIn in beautiful New York. So good afternoon, actually. I help universities, including Pepperdine, with their social presence, their activation, building communities, and helping their students and alumni further their education, grow in their careers, and become leaders in industry. So I'm very excited to, take, what Denise was amazing at presenting, and the value alignment, and showing you how you can take not only your LinkedIn profile and presence, but your social presence, digital presence as well, to build a community that's going to help you grow in your career. So if you wouldn't mind, Jason. Fantastic. So it's all about building this community and creating impact with your executive voice. I'm going to use terms like executive and CEO a lot, because I believe that everyone here, maybe you already are an executive and CEO, but if you're not, I'm sure you're striving to be. Everyone here, I imagine, is type A. You're driven. You want to further advance yourself. So let's get started and think about this a little bit. Thank you, Jason. I'm going to quote my former CEO, executive chairman, with this quote that he says about your professional network, your presence, and it's all about whom you want to interact, inform, and influence. 3 really important words here, right? Who do you want to be in front of? Who do you want to inform with information that's going to be meaningful for them, that's going to drive business, help with decisions, and how are you going to influence them? The 4th thing I would add here, don't tell them I'm saying it, but the 4th thing that I would say is the word act. And I'm saying the word act because for a lot of people, as Denise mentioned, it's getting over some fear. A lot of people come to me and come to career services saying, my digital presence, my LinkedIn, things are a bit stagnant for me right now. Things aren't progressing the way I want. My network isn't growing. I can't get promoted. I can't get into this industry I want. If you want to get to that next level, you need to act. And what we're going to discuss here are how you can do that, and how you can do that very, very quickly. But it will take effort. It's not just going to happen on the sideline. It's not going to happen from just liking comments and photos. It's going to take some homework. So again, Denise gave you some homework. I'm going to give you homework. Maybe even Fat, the next person on this panel, are going to give you some homework as well. Next slide, sir. So all of this is about your community and building influence and really driving business forward, and your value, right? What matters to you is increasingly important in today's landscape. So what we see is that your brand, your reputation impacts not just where you work, but who you do business with. So over 80% of employees say they'd rather work for a socially conscious CEO, and over 66%, over 2/3 of customers want to see business leaders and CEOs who are social, who are out there, who have thought leadership. Think about that for a second, right? They want to see, people want to work for and work with companies and executives who have perspective, who are social influencers. That's growing, and that's more and more what they talk about. Whenever you see the top employer list, these sorts of companies are the ones that are filtering to the top. And for you personally, if you're in business and you're trying to grow your business, the leads and the relationships and the connections that you build through your marketing, through posts and things that you put out, are 7 times more valuable, right? Or 7 times more likely to convert into a business opportunity. So don't think of this as just your social media presence. This is a way to drive business, whether it's on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook, however you're thinking about it. Again, as Denise mentioned, your brand is across everywhere, and people are looking at all aspects of this. So the theme of here is credibility, right? You want to be seen as credible. And when we think about how you can share and influence your networks, thought leadership is really what comes to mind. It further enhances your brand's reputation, and more importantly, trust in your organization. And I don't think I need to be the first one to tell you how important having trust in where you work and the companies that you interact with is in today's landscape. So it's not just about sharing what someone else put out there. It's not just about taking an article from the LA Times or the New York Times or Business Insider and sharing it. It's about, okay, here's this amazing article. How do I think about this? Right? Why does this matter to me? Why should it matter to you? And adding those insights with relevant information, that's going to make you more influential out there. And again, this is all about you have to act on this. Anyone can copy a URL. It takes someone who's more influential to give their thoughts and perspectives out there, which is going to drive value. How you're going to get things that go viral, make an impact on someone, and open up new doors. So 4 tips. We're going over 4 things. Write them down if you want. I'm always happy to go over these again. This is how you're going to maximize your impact and build presence, build community. Because executives out there, decision makers out there are eager to engage on social media now more than ever when we're all stuck at home and have kids jumping on our laps and interrupting your Zoom meetings. But these are things that are going to do to make good use of time, importantly, add value and drive impact. So let's kick it off, Jason, for number 1. Jason's doing a great job, right? So the first thing, and I forgot where in that triangle it was, Denise, is about talking about things that are inspirational to you, that really matter to you, right? And this doesn't have to be just about the industry or the company that you work on. It could be about charities or causes that are important to you. And when you think about the content that's going to drive the most engagement, either on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Twitter, you want your posts, your content to be short, inspirational. You want them to be visual. I know that Fat is an expert on making sure it's video, and video. Video is going to be, even if it's a 5-second video, I think I saw a recent stat, it's going to be over 80% of posts out there in the coming years is going to be some sort of video. Because people want to understand what's inspirational to you and what's important. And for you, it's going to be more fun. You're not going to think of it as work. You're not going to think of it as taking up more time in my day, because it's a cause that matters to you. The next is the term of like authenticity, right? So what you want to do is you want to be your authentic self, but you also want to show gratitude, and you want to ensure that you are helping others where you can. So as you can see on the left, go beyond just liking something, right? Comment on it. And when you comment on something, be sure to highlight someone. Make sure you do at whoever it is so they ensure that they see it. Make sure that you're doing at the company or the university so that it gains those extra followers, right? It's not, you really need to think beyond just liking, and show gratitude, right? Say congrats, highlight people, help people, right? The more that you put yourself out there and get over that fear of helping others, the more you're going to see it come full circle. I know it's a really important aspect of Pepperdine as well, but it helps you amplify other people. And it further amplifies yourself. Good old video. Did you know that you have a phone in your pocket that can make a video? It's pretty amazing. And it doesn't take a lot to do it really, really well. We see on our platform and other platforms that video engagement is astronomically higher than a static image or an article. Think about ways to highlight a video of yourself, making a comment. It's becoming easier and easier to upload videos, add it to your profile, add it to your website, add it to your blog, but also think about how you can utilize this to your advantage in business, right? Maybe you did a product demo, maybe you interviewed a customer, maybe you did a tutorial. These things grab attention really, really quick, and everything is off of an algorithm, and platforms are highlighting videos now more than ever. Here are a couple of great things that pretty influential women in business, right? Melinda Gates, Sally project put out there and they put it out there consistently, that's the other big part of ACT, is you want to make sure you're doing it consistently. So don't come out of this webinar and this panel doing it for a couple days, right? Think about a long-term strategy for this, right? I want to see you doing this a couple times a week, every week. It's just going to become part of your routine. And that's how you're going to really grow and amplify your brand. Let's go to number 4. So I got a little bit cut off there, but that is okay. So let's focus on topics that people really care about. So did you know that you can search hashtags everywhere? Pretty cool. So for example, I focus on education. So when I think about a post I want to put out there, you better believe I'm going to do hashtag education everywhere. And the reason I'm going to do that is because on our platform, on LinkedIn alone, there's almost 10 million followers of just that hashtag, which means your post has a much higher likelihood of being seen by those 10 million people. Pretty amazing. You can also search for trending topics on these platforms, things that are relevant to people, right? Relevancy is going to help. But be sure to include hashtags, tag individuals, tag organizations. That's going to further help expand your exposure within the network and increase the likelihood of dialogue. I'm sure you'll get more people replying back. Companies are monitoring every single post that's out there in the stratosphere and in the cloud. They're going to comment back to you, and that's going to increase the people. I guarantee you're going to get new connections, and it's just going to further yourself.
Hey, Andrew, I have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people feel like they've done these things, maybe not to this extent, and maybe they feel like their social presence is getting a little stagnant. Is there anything that we can do to reinvigorate our presence and sort of re-engage and supercharge?
Supercharge. I love that. Actually, that's the perfect segue. Jason, can you go to the next slide, actually? So here's what I would do. Here's how I would reinvigorate and supercharge my presence right now. And the first is to, pick a theme, pick a cause, pick something potentially in your industry that you can get behind for a long period of time, that you can just hammer home every week on the platform, right? That singular thing. Now, it doesn't even need to be something that's different than other people, but what's going to happen with this theme is that you're going to be known. People are going to expect it from you, right? You're going to be seen as the thought leader, the expert in this industry, right? People are going to come to you with questions. People might even ask you to sit on a panel, and you're going to continue to promote and dig in on this over and over and over. And what I would do is develop your own hashtag. This is actually pretty fun. So think about a hashtag that you can start to put in every single post that you do, because what you can start doing is track that hashtag, right? You can then go back 6 months later, plug it into a platform and see all of your posts and see all the activity. It's pretty amazing what you can see. And maybe even other people will start to utilize that hashtag too. One of my colleagues at LinkedIn started using the hashtag #GetHired. And now he can go back and see millions of impressions and people following this hashtag out there. But the other thing to do when developing a theme, and I see Eileen here with an amazing question about changing industries, is what I would do is, search the hashtags out there and see which ones have the most followers, see which ones are popping up. There are all these hashtag companies out there that can tell you how many followers there are. So you can see which ones are most important to what industries. Or what you can also do is go to the companies or the influential companies within the industry you want to be in and see what they're posting about, see what they're hashtagging, see the causes that matter to them. And that'll help dictate a potential theme so you can burst into that industry. It's a really great question. Number 4 would be to, again, always at someone. You can see in this post here, they added, I think, 2 people and 3 companies. And be sure to ask questions, right? Don't just say, super interesting article, read below. No one's going to engage with that. but they may if you pose a question, they may interact. So for example, I'm working on a post right now where I noticed that the #1 course that people are looking at on LinkedIn is Algebra 101, which tells me that parents like me are home brushing up on their algebra skills because their kids are at home remote learning, right? So I'm writing a post right now asking the questions like, how's your math skills coming along helping your kid? And then the last is be consistent. Consistency will win every single time. Utilize your network every day, go into your platforms, reach out to people. You have a community of, latest numbers, 32,000 alumni at Graziadio, over 50,000 alumni on Pepperdine that you can leverage. Go into our alumni tool, message people, connect. You have connections in common and utilize that to your advantage. Get over that fear. You'll be amazed at how many doors open up and how your personal brand can just expand exponentially by doing that. So this is a quick hit. I've almost lost my voice. Amazing question, Aileen. Thank you, Denise. I'm going to pass it over to Fat really soon, who's going to tell you how to be excellent with your content and your posts. But yeah, take it over. Thanks, Jason.
Hi there. Thanks so much, Andrew. That was amazing. And I'm not just saying this because you're on one of our speakers today, but LinkedIn is absolutely my favorite social network by far. I am on that thing every day, and I'm trying to make sure I'm putting something out there of value every, a couple of times a week. So it's super important. It's one of the best ways for me to network with my community and to get a lot of business contacts. So before I go further into my presentation, I wanted to just talk a little bit about my personal background, because that's going to be really relevant to what I'm talking about today. I started my career as a journalist, as a reporter with the Chicago Tribune. So shout out to all the people in Chicago on this call. And I was a print reporter for about 6 years. I covered the internet and the advertising business. And then I moved back to Los Angeles, where I grew up, Southern California, and then jumped online and became a senior editor at Yahoo on the homepage team. So if you guys ever been to the homepage of Yahoo, it's an amazing place for content, one of the biggest sort of aggregators of content on the web. And that's where I really learned how people interact with content and consume content on the web. And I did that for about 7 years. And then at the end of that, I started an MBA program at Pepperdine. And that's where I really started my own agency called Storycraft. And what we do is we help brands tell their best stories, right? So that's a little bit about my background. And we're going to get back into that a little bit later, actually, because it's super important to be able to articulate where you come from and why that matters, right? So the #1 tip I can give you today is to be super consistent about your personal brand. Andrew talked about consistency and how important that is. You need to decide on what you're known for, right? Think about the purpose activity that Denise took us through, right? What's your purpose in life? How are you going to articulate that? And then really stick with that, right? Identify the core themes that you want to be known for and hammer that over and over again, right? So when I get on a podcast, I'm talking about brand storytelling. When I write a piece of content, I'm talking about brand storytelling, because that's my thing, right? Andrew's thing may be education. Denise's thing is finding purpose in leadership, right? And then when you find a niche, carve a niche within that niche, right? So for example, if you want to be known as known for entrepreneurship, right? That's great, but that's a pretty broad topic, right? So maybe you want to narrow that down to being known for social enterprises, right? So companies that do social good as well as do business, right? But then even within that niche, there's a lot of things you can kind of narrow down to. For example, you can narrow down to thinking about direct-to-consumer brands like Warby Parker and Tom Shoes, all they're kind of the new models for social entrepreneurship, right? So really think about what's the niche that you want to play in, right? And then when you are consistent with what your brand is about, there's something called the Google test, right? When you Google yourself, right, what comes up in that search? What comes up on that first page, right? If you Google me, you'll see Storycraft, which is my brand storytelling agency. You'll also see a profile on General Assembly where I teach a class on brand storytelling. And then you'll see my Medium page where I talk a lot about brand storytelling, right? So you can see that there's a consistent message going on there, right? The other tip I want to give you is think about how you can talk about what you do in less than 2 sentences, right? 1 or 2 sentences tops. And this is one of the first things we do in my brand storytelling workshops, right? Is think about how can I articulate what I do in a very short amount of space, right? Because people don't have a lot of time to figure out what you're about. So be able to say that in 1 or 2 sentences. So for me, it's like I'm a former journalist who helps brands tell their best stories to attract a bigger and more engaged audience, right? And it's super easy for people to understand because everyone knows what a journalist does and they know how I can apply that to their brand by telling their best stories. So it makes a lot of sense. So can you tell me what you do in 1 sentence and make it really super crisp? So really work on this, right? And then another tip I want to give you is really this comes as no surprise, right? Have a story to tell, right? Have a personal narrative, right? I started off by telling you that I used to work in journalism. I've moved into the marketing space after working through Yahoo and getting my MBA at Pepperdine, right? It's a narrative that people understand, right? And so having that story helps people grab onto what you're all about, right? And it doesn't necessarily have to be, it could be a personal epiphany, right? Or an interesting way that you discovered the problem that you're trying to solve for, right? And what you're really doing with your personal narrative is telling people, explain to people how you got really good at what you do and why that matters, right? Why are you uniquely qualified to do what you're doing or consult on what you're consulting on, right? And that personal experience really helps me understand what you're about and why I should pay attention to you, right? The 4th tip I want to give you is always be adding to the conversation, right? Rather than adding to the noise, right? At Storycraft, our unofficial mascot is the astronaut, right? Because astronauts are brave, they soar above the earth, and they see the big picture, right? They get away from the noise, right? So always be adding value whenever you have a communication, right? So Andrew talked a little bit about this, right? The most valuable thing in the world that you have is someone's attention. And people pay attention to people who always give value whenever you interact with them, right? So even if it's a tweet or Instagram post or LinkedIn post, right? Add a little bit of value, add a little nugget of knowledge, drop a little bit of knowledge whenever you're doing that. So Andrew said, we don't just like something, really think about what's your take on it, right? What's your point of view on this issue or this article, right? You really want to drop those knowledge bombs as much as you can. So I want to talk to you about content strategy and how you can apply what I just talked about to content strategy. And there are kind of 3 ways you want to think about your content strategy, right? What are you saying? How are you saying it? And where are you saying it, right? So what are you saying, right? When it comes to in terms of what you want to say, and I talk a lot about this with my clients, really have a point of view. A point of view helps us understand what you're about, right? And so what I mean by that is, do you have a point of view on how your industry should operate? Or do you have a point of view, for example, if you're in education? What is your point of view on how education should be delivered, or how it should be, how we should, whether you think private schools are the way to go or charter schools, whatever it is, you need to have a point of view that helps you understand what you're about. So I work a lot in e-commerce these days, and there's a company called Fast that their point of view is that it should be completely frictionless to buy anything online, right? So they're developing this technology where you can buy anything online without passwords with a single click, right? So that's their point of view, is that buying anything online should be frictionless, right? And so your point of view often comes across as a should statement. So what is that should statement for your brand, right? What is, how should education be delivered, right? How should advertising be done in this new fragmented modern world? So think about what's your should statement, what's your point of view. Once you understand your point of view, you want to think about your brand voice. And what I mean by that is your brand personality. So all of us have our own personalities, and your brand has a personality. So it might be that your personality is really quirky and funny, or it might be that you want to be very polished and professional. Humor is a great way to be approachable, but it doesn't always work for everyone. You know, so think about how you want to come across, right? What are the words that you use? What are the, it comes down to even the way that you dress, for example, right? So there's this guy named Rand Fishkin, who's really big in the SEO world, right? And he became known because he started these whiteboard sessions where he was he was explaining SEO in layman terms that everyone could understand. And that became his brand voice, because he was able to take a very complex subject and explain it to people so that anyone could understand, right? So that became his brand voice. So what is your brand voice to help people engage with you better? And once you understand what you're saying, what your point of view is, how you want to say it, what your brand voice is, you want to think about what are the channels that are best suited for me, right? For me, again, it's LinkedIn, because that feels like a great place for me to talk about brand storytelling. There are a lot of brands on LinkedIn, but Instagram might be your place. Or if you like to be on camera, you like to make videos, YouTube might be your place, right? Or even TikTok these days, right? So, you know, I'm not a great dancer, so it might not be a great place for me, but I know there are brands on TikTok, so someone's figuring out how to do it, right? Twitter is actually another place where I go to very often for information. So think about what channels fit your personality, right? A lot of people actually are not great with social media. They don't like to put themselves out there that much, right? And so maybe there's a way, maybe blogging is your platform. And so if you're a blogger, I would recommend going to a place like Medium, which has a built-in audience, is a great place to meet other thought leaders. So think about what you want to say, how are you going to say it, and where are you going to say it? And the last thought I want to give you is that what I call the 3 C's of content, and that is create content consistently, right? I think Andrew actually mentioned this as well, that you really want to be consistent about not just the type of content, but the frequency of content, right? So if I'm writing about brand storytelling one day, and then I'm writing about sports the next day, and I'm writing about politics the other day, it gets to be this mishmash of content. It's not very cohesive, right? So be really cohesive about the content you're putting out there, but also be really consistent about how often you show up, right? So again, I'm trying to be on LinkedIn at least 2 or 3 times a week. And it doesn't have to be content that you produce, although that's ideal. It could be content that you're commenting on, that you're providing your point of view on, right? So it's both things that you write and produce, and things that you share that ladder up to this narrative that you want to create for yourself. So those are my thoughts.
Great, thank you so much, Matt. And at this point, we will move into our Q&A session for maybe about 10, 12 minutes. So if you do have a question, please populate it into the chat, and I will ask our panelists. So we do have a couple of questions that have come in thus far. So The first question is from Mario, and he says, I'm in my mid-50s and I'm taking a sabbatical year in Peru. So the question is, what virtual strategy should I follow when I return to the US next year to find a similar job?
Well, I'm if you Andrew can elaborate on
Yeah.
this, but I think if you don't have a LinkedIn profile that's really fleshed out, I definitely would. That would be one of the first places I would start. And one of the things I would do is understand what is being talked about right now. What are the hot topics in my space, so that I'm coming up to speed on, so that I'm able to add to that conversation, right? It's not just that I'm, you know, you want to be really intelligent about what you're putting out there, and coming up to speed on what's the issues in your industry, wherever they are. That's always going to be some smart strategy.
Yeah, it's a great question, Fat. I think you're exactly right. You know, if updating your LinkedIn profile is a little bit overwhelming, what I would say is identify people in senior executive level roles in those industries. Look at their profiles, see how they format it, see what they say, find those key terms that they may use about their jobs that you can utilize in your profile, in your about section, your summary, and maybe even your resume if you're applying or trying to transition. And then similarly, you know, absolutely follow the influencers, follow the companies in that industry, the leaders. You need to know what they're posting about every day, what they're talking about. No longer can you just wait for a big news article to pop up from CNN or wherever about the company. What they're putting out there is more important. So you need to know, so that the moment you have a conversation or an interview, you know what they've been saying for weeks and months, and even like an hour before that interview, which is going to only help you in those conversations. Just, you have to be in the know of what's going on, and you need to think about speaking their language.
And Andrew, I would add to that values alignment piece. So if you're really in tune to your own purposeful brand internally, you'll be able to see the alignment in the organization. And one of the things that's coming up in data and literature quite a bit is, if you want to find the most unhappy employees, they're the ones that don't have deep alignment with their employers. So if you know that going into this, you'll be able to find the organizations that already have that sort of values alignment with you. And once that happens, we see productivity, happiness, trust, all those metrics go way up.
It's a great point. I'm going to follow up on that. If you haven't Googled whatever company's mission, if you can't you can't find what a company's mission is pretty fast, or you don't like their mission, maybe that company isn't for you.
But make sure they're living it, and it's not just written on a wall somewhere.
There it is. Love that.
Great, thank you. Okay, we have another question that came in from Emily. Andrew or other panelists, do you have a suggested minimum time per week, maybe, to spend on LinkedIn to maximize the platform for a career change? I honestly don't like social media, but I understand its value, particularly in today's environment.
Hi, Emily. Thank you for your question. I can relate that it can be a bit overwhelming out there. I totally understand that. I wouldn't think of it as time per week to spend. It's really about quality over quantity in a lot of respects. So, you know, if you're really trying to make a career change, first, obviously leverage Stacy and the team at Pepperdine. They're obviously going to be able to help you a lot. But think about those people, your connections, and if you haven't reached out to them, start doing so now to see who they can maybe introduce you to, right? Those second degree connections on your network are vital, right? Over 80% of all hires come from referrals, which is astonishing. So anyone that you're connected to who may know someone at a company whose mission they're living that is important to you, leverage them to introduce you. People are really open. Alumni are really open to helping out other alumni. So don't think of it as like, I need to spend 6 hours every week posting and commenting and liking. Think of it as, all right, I'm going to be really thoughtful about this. I'm going to identify the people that I think can make the biggest impact, and I'm going to really spend the time and energy crafting a great note to them and utilizing them as best I can.
And Emily, I feel your pain because I assure you, I was not a native social person at all. And by virtue of my job, I now have to do a lot of public speaking. I do a lot of things that are public facing. So I will tell you how I went about it. I used it kind of like developing a muscle. So I started with LinkedIn because that was the arena I felt the most native to. It felt most comfortable and familiar to me from a business environment. Once you go through and you start connecting with and engaging with people that excite you, people that inspire you, the content you begin to engage with is different. So I committed to 15 minutes a day of really engaging, staying up to date, making sure that I was sort of in the know with things that were being released, thought leaders that were talking about things in my lane, and really committed to, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm really going to build out a robust environment for myself. It really helped. It has been tremendously valuable. I have gotten incredible job offers, incredible speaking opportunities, thought leadership. A lot has come from that one platform. I am baby stepping into the others, but I will tell you, if I do nothing else, commit to a time that you know is doable, make it fun, find inspiring people, and have them help you engage in your lane in a way that's contemporary and fresh and exciting.
Great. Okay, so our next question is from Maxwell. And he says, if we have not defined our niche industry, should we start with broad content and aim to carve as time goes on, or start with a potential specified niche market?
I mean, I'm of the thought that some content is better than no content at all, right? So if you're putting out anything at all, that's better than just not existing online and not putting yourself out there. You do want to at some point hone that, because you want to be known for something. You want to be known as the expert for X, right? Rather than just kind of a mishmash of things. And really just follow, what are your interests? Like what do you read all the time? What do you gravitate toward when you open up the internet every day, right? Are you reading specific publications? And you start to kind of want to narrow things down, right? What's something that you can talk about every day, all day long? For me, I can talk about brand storytelling and content all day, and I'm reading all kinds of publications on this every single day. And so it's something that really energizes me. So figure out like what it is that energizes you every day, and hopefully you can kind of carve a path for yourself. But I agree that if you don't have to figure it out right away, but be looking for that path, and be looking to narrow down into a niche.
You can't take the brand strategist out of me. So I'm going to say a little bit of a tilt here. I'm going to pivot just a tiny bit and say there's a reason you carved out that niche. And I'm assuming it's because it's where the white space is. So if that is where your growth opportunity is, and that is where you believe your white space is, if you are in a crowded market and the general market is quite saturated, you might want to use this time to start developing what Fat was telling us about, and that is get those couple sentences, start educating the market as to what this special slice is, and start differentiating yourself based on it. If you try to do battle in a general market that's quite saturated, it's expensive, it's time consuming. We've got loud, noisy markets right now, and it's very hard to break through that clutter. So it might also be the piece that allows you to unlock your value.
That's great advice.
Great. Okay, so we have time for one more question. All these questions have been so great. Our last question comes from Sarah. She says, any suggestions for helping show continuity as a professional with bilingual markets? As a professional that works with companies in the US and Latinum, I'm constantly flipping between languages. Don't want to scare anyone away.
I have some interesting thoughts around this because we do work with a lot of international companies. One of the things we like to do is make sure that we're using closed caption. The words are powerful. So if you're able to activate that, no matter what language you're speaking in, if you've got the US translation underneath and you're using English in that particular way, I have actually found it's more powerful in some instances, or do two cuts or two versions. But allowing people access, use the translation bar. Make sure it's activated so people can experience you in their own native language. And we've actually seen brands become more powerful when they're able to be bilingual, trilingual, working in multiple markets by just using our technical tools to our advantage. So I actually think it's not scary. It's a great opportunity for you to differentiate yourself.
Yeah, I agree, Denise. I mean, who doesn't want, first of all, to work with someone or have an employee that is multilingual? I think it's, you know, don't think of it as, it's not imposter syndrome here, guys. It's like, this is an asset. Utilize it as an asset. Most platforms out there and most browsers have auto translate functions. So don't think of language as a hindrance at all. It's, you know, frankly, I see it as a competitive advantage. I mean, I'm fairly jealous of, actually. And there isn't a company or brand out there that doesn't have or doesn't want a major international presence. So, you know, you say, I'd love to dig in a bit more, Sarah, at some point about flipping between languages. Maybe that's a sidebar thing, but I would, as Denise mentioned, like I think not something to be afraid of or ashamed of at all.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Denise, Andrew, and Fat, for your time today. We do have some other questions that didn't get answered, so we will try to send those to the panelists, and hopefully we can get some answers to those and send those out to you so that everyone's questions do get answered today. But from the bottom of our heart, we would love to give a round of applause for our three panelists. So you can just go like this. Use your reaction button. And I would like to also introduce that we do have our Dean of Students and Alumni Affairs on the Zoom call with us today, Dr. Bernice Ledbetter. Didn't get a chance to introduce her at the beginning, but just wanted to turn over to Bernice if she wanted to say a couple of words. And then before we do log off today, we do have a short survey of 3 questions that we would like to ask you that will take you less than a minute to answer. Bernice?
Thank you. So sorry. Thank you, Jason, so much. And thank you everyone for being here. And thank you to the alumni team for putting on a fabulous, fabulous panel. I trust, like me, you gained so much rich insight. Thank goodness this is recorded because we're all going to want to go back and listen to it carefully to receive the full insight. And I hope that you see too that Graziadio is committed to you for a lifelong journey of your career and professional development. So we invite you to stay close to us and connected to us. Don't hesitate to reach out if we can support you in your career journey at whatever point you are at on that journey. We're here to support your success and to celebrate it at every step of the way. Thank you so much for being here. And Jason, I'll hand it back to you.
Great, thank you, Dean Bernice Ledbetter. If you would like to end to networking with those folks on today's call, Nicole Green, our Alumni Engagement Manager, will be dropping that into the chats function. So please do fill that out if you are interested in networking with folks. Also, post this event, the recording and any resource slides will be sent out to you in a thank you email in case you were wondering. And again, thank you for attending our Session 3 career event today. And again, thank you to our 3 panelists for taking time out of your busy schedules to share your wisdom and your knowledge with us. So thank you and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.